What are you waiting for? You're not in your way anymore. So live your life out loud. Live your life out loud. What are you waiting for? You're not in your way anymore. So live your life out loud. Out loud.
The one that I remember that I guess would be a dominant memory is that I know I was continually asked to come into a room with one of my cousins, and I know that I didn't like being in the room when I was there, especially when I got older and I understood what was happening. I never knew how I was coaxed or convinced to come into the room. That part, I don't have memories of that. I only have memories of being in the room, and I know that sometimes when I was in the room I would ask to leave or say that I wanted to leave. I believe that I remember even people being in neighboring rooms, but I don't know why I didn't scream or knock on the door, bang on the door, make any sort of noise. I feel like I really conformed, so that makes me feel like there was some sort of persuasion that just was working. You know, I really don't want to get too graphic with it, but I was just put in a position where that person was able to ejaculate, and I don't feel like it was anything aggressive. I know it wasn't, but it was just wrong for a child to have to be put in that experience. And you know, this person was older than me and they knew what they were doing. I never thought about opening my mouth because really I didn't understand what was happening. And for any child that is going through it, a child, you don't know how to you don't know what is happening. So I do remember there was one instance where I was 5 and something was happening and somebody had knocked on the door and they were scurrying inside the room. And then I remember that my mom had asked me was something happening the next day. You know, my mom was bathing me and getting me dressed for school and asked me, did something happen? And I lied to her and said no. I remember that very vividly, and I think deep down inside, since I remember lying to her at that age, I just felt like I couldn't say anything. And I never even tried to say anything. I've always been at family functions and we're always all together and we laugh and carry on like everything is everything. But we all know that it's not okay. Anybody involved knows that it's not okay. For years I've held that inside of myself, living with that, not wanting, being fearful of it hurting my family, and not really knowing how it would affect me, and not wanting people to label me and look at me as weak or as a victim. One of my greatest fears was seeing the look in people's eyes and that look of pity. I think that if I saw that look of pity, it would have been like something was happening to me again. So I chose to hold it inside until I felt like I could deal with either that look or I could speak to them in a way where I wouldn't receive that look. And that has been my experience. I speak to the experience and I speak to people in an affirmative way because I have done my work to heal through it. I probably just wanted to be a happy kid. You know, I had enough of going through that stuff, and like I said, I think the predominant thing is I didn't know what was happening or how to deal with it, so I just chose not to really deal with it. Just live until I couldn't do it anymore. You know, in high school, I remember thinking about it sometimes and just knowing that it would be part of my story and I would use it to help other people. And then in college, I remember when I was getting ready to graduate, like in 06, I just said, I need this out of me. I felt like it was in me, and I wanted to be true. I wanted to be honest. I wanted to be transparent. When you see me, you know who I am, you know what I represent, and there was no way for me to do that with this inside of me. So I knew it had to come out, and that's when I chose, okay, I'm gonna do it. My parents pretty much, you would think I didn't say anything to them, which I now understand that was their way of coping, but me going through it and wanting them to look me in my eyes with, compassion and empathy, and identify with me and say, I see you and I hear you and you're not alone, that didn't happen. With my siblings, I felt, again, that was difficult too for me with my siblings, because there are 3 girls and 2 boys, and mostly my focus was on my sisters. You know, everybody knows, and you know, everybody was told, but again, I felt with my sisters, or I expected, again, that empathy and that compassion and the warmth and you're not alone feeling that I didn't get. So throughout my healing process, I felt very alone. Although I had people with me, tons of bodies around me, and people knew, I just felt like I was on a journey by myself. And I think that's something that I feared as well, with just sharing it with people, maybe on some level. And so that was hard for me, I would say, when I did tell everybody and felt like, okay, whew, I got that out. Now I'm gonna have some help with this thing. I don't have to deal with it alone. And I did have to deal with it alone. How I feel it affected me with a partner is I didn't know myself. And I did not know that I did not know myself until I was out of that relationship. But I felt that I was confident and I felt that I was strong, but I realized I was weak. I realized that I was in a lot of pain. I realized that I was afraid and I was fearful. I realized that I was this scared little girl protecting herself. And once I was able to see that little girl and say, okay, it's okay to be vulnerable, that's where my healing started to come from, because I was so afraid of getting hurt again. Since I got hurt as a child, between what I would say the ages of 5 to 9, I felt like I then had to learn how to protect my own self. And my way to protect myself was obviously to have walls up around me, walls that I did not even realize were there and that were so strong. So in my relationships with girlfriends, even with males, I thought I was letting them in, but I couldn't let them in. I didn't know how to let them in, really. What I did to get through was I wrote a lot. It's self-analysis, basically, is what I went through with myself. I read a lot of different books on self-improvement. I did a lot of crying, and I did a lot of feeling. Just anything that I was feeling, I always got in touch with that emotion. If I was feeling shame, that was a big one. It was like the feelings I hadn't addressed. So shame was one I wouldn't readily go to, but I started going to that place and addressing why I felt shame. Anger, I'm a person that really does not get angry, but I needed for that little girl in me to be angry and know that it was okay to be angry. Disappointment is another feeling that I know I had to feel. Disappointment in my family. What we represent was really false to me. And you know, I had to let some people know that what I was raised believing is that we're always there for each other and we're there to support each other. But when I started coming out and telling people and expecting people to be there for me and hold me and embrace me, that was not my experience. And that was hard for me, actually. I don't even think as much anybody can tell you, because you already know what you're going through. I would say just feel whatever is there and let it come up. I would say allow it. I would say to trust it, and I would say to be consistent with it, because that is going to set you free. You just have to go through it. And I guess in being part of this movement with Been There, Done That, and people telling their stories of hope to reach others and their stories of healing, you know it when it's your time to heal. You feel it. There's something in you that speaks to you, and that moved inside of me that day, and I knew. And you won't doubt it, you'll trust it. And I trusted it, and it has brought me here. It has brought me to a place of safety. It has brought me to a place of joy. It has brought me to a place of light, of understanding, of appreciation. You know, now I can look at that experience and I can appreciate it for what it was. And I know for some of you, you may look at me like, what the hell is she talking about? Or, nah, that ain't gonna happen to me. But when you really go through it and you are really at peace with it, you see the gifts that you have gotten from it. And I know that from it, I'm more compassionate. I know that I'm deeply sincere. I know that I'm authentic, and I know that I'm real. And that has been a gift to me from the experience. So now when I think about the experience, I let it rest. I'm no longer looking at it as, I don't have the pain associated with that experience anymore. It's just, it happened to me. It was an experience, but it is not who I be. It is not my identity. And for that, I'm grateful. Through all that, I'm in peace now, and gratitude, and positive expectation, and joy, and wonder, and curiosity, innocence, and charm, and fantasy, and magic, and everything juicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm living a juicy life. Any last words that I would like to say? Be happy. Be happy.